This video is a tribute to the 5 biggest native tribes of the United States. Their names are the Cherokee, the Navajo, the Sioux, the Chippewa, and the Choctaw. We will cover their history, their struggles with the U.S. government, their contributions in wars, their survival against impossible odds, and where their descendants live today. We will also explore how many of their people remain and which famous names come from their bloodlines. Before we continue, if you value deep and untold stories of history, consider subscribing to this channel. It allows us to bring you more research, more truth, and more lessons from the past that deserve to be remembered. The Cherokee were once the dominant power of the Southeast, with ancestral lands stretching across Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. They built permanent towns, practiced advanced farming, and governed through councils and chiefs. By the 18th century, they had made contact with Europeans and became one of the so-called 5 civilized tribes, adopting many aspects of American life. Sequoyah's invention of the Cherokee syllabary in 1821 gave them literacy in their own language, and by 1828 they had their own bilingual newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix. Yet, progress did not protect them. When gold was discovered on their lands in Georgia in 1828, settlers demanded removal. The state of Georgia ignored Cherokee sovereignty, passing laws to seize their property. In 1832, the Supreme Court ruled in Worcester v. Georgia that the Cherokee Nation was sovereign, but President Andrew Jackson refused to enforce the ruling, reportedly sneering, "John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it." By 1838, the U.S. Army, under General Winfield Scott, rounded up Cherokee families at Bayonet Point and forced them on the Trail of Tears. Nearly 16,000 Cherokee were removed. Around 4,000 died on the march west from disease, starvation, and exposure. Despite the devastation, the Cherokee rebuilt in Indian Territory, today's Oklahoma. They re-established schools, businesses, and government. The Cherokee Nation remains the largest tribe in the U.S., with over 430,000 enrolled members today, about 141,000 in Oklahoma. Their descendants include political leaders like Wilma Mankiller, the first woman to serve as principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, and Hollywood actors like Wes Studi, who brought Cherokee heritage to the screen. The Navajo, or Dine, are the largest tribe in America by land and population. Their homelands spanned Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. Known for their deep spirituality, clan system, weaving, and silverwork, they became central to the cultural identity of the Southwest. In the 1860s, the U.S. Army waged war against the Navajo. Thousands were forced on the Long Walk of 1864, a 300-mile march to Bosque Redondo, New Mexico. Conditions were brutal. Food was scarce. Hundreds died. After years of suffering, the Navajo signed a treaty in 1868 that allowed them to return to a portion of their homeland. Unlike many tribes, they reclaimed part of their ancestral lands. During World War II, the Navajo gained worldwide fame through the Code Talkers. Using their language, they created an unbreakable code that confounded Japanese intelligence. Military historians credit the Navajo Code Talkers with helping secure Allied victories in the Pacific. Today, the Navajo Nation is both vast and resilient. It covers 27,000 square miles across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, larger than West Virginia. The nation has over 400,000 enrolled members, with around 170,000 living on the reservation itself. Modern Navajo leaders include Peterson Za, the first president of the Navajo Nation, and cultural icons like painter R.C. Gorman. Their survival proves the strength of their traditions and the adaptability of their people. The Sioux, or Oseti, Sakowin, 7 council fires, are divided into the Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota. They lived across the northern plains, stretching from Minnesota to the Dakotas, Montana, and beyond. For centuries, they thrived as buffalo hunters and warriors. But when settlers pushed westward, the U.S. Army clashed with the Sioux in some of the most famous conflicts in American history. The Sioux are remembered for their fierce resistance. Red Cloud's War in the 1860s forced the U.S. to temporarily abandon forts in the Powder River region. In 1876, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse led the Lakota, alongside Cheyenne allies, to a legendary victory over General George Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn. But victory was short-lived. In 1890, at Wounded Knee, U.S. troops massacred more than 250 Lakota, mostly women and children. It was the final blow to Sioux independence. Despite this history of bloodshed, Sioux warriors later served in the U.S. military in both World Wars and Vietnam, carrying forward their warrior tradition in a different form. Today, the Sioux number about 170,000 tribal members across North and South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, and Minnesota. Their descendants include activists like Russell Means, who helped lead the American Indian movement, and actor Floyd Red Crow Westerman, who carried their story into Hollywood. The Sioux remain symbols of resistance, resilience, and native pride. The Chippewa, also known as the Ojibwa or Anishinaabe, are one of the largest tribal groups in North America. Their homelands spread across the Great Lakes, from Michigan to Minnesota and into Canada. They became key players in the fur trade, allying with the French against the British in colonial wars. Their birch bark canoes, wild rice harvests, and beadwork remain central to their identity. But their story with the U.S. government was filled with betrayal. In 1850, under President Zachary Taylor, they were ordered to relocate. Hundreds died in the Sandy Lake tragedy, where false promises of food rations led to starvation and exposure deaths. Yet the Ojibwe endured. Their leaders fought for treaty rights that continue to influence fishing, hunting, and land use across the Midwest today. The Chippewa are also noted for military service. Thousands enlisted in the U.S. Army during both World Wars, continuing the warrior tradition. Today, there are about 170,000 Ojibwe in the United States, with major populations in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and North Dakota. Leaders like Winona LaDuke, an Ojibwe environmental activist, continue the fight for native sovereignty and ecological survival. The Chippewa are proof that even tragedy cannot erase a people who continue to fight for their rights. The Choctaw, originally from Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, were among the first tribes displaced under the Indian Removal Act. Thousands died during their forced march to Oklahoma. Despite their suffering, they rebuilt in Indian territory and created a strong tribal government. During World War I, they became the first code talkers, using their language to transmit secure military messages. Their success later inspired the Navajo code talkers of World War II. Today, the Choctaw Nation is one of the most powerful tribes in America. With 200,000 enrolled members, most in Oklahoma, they run businesses, schools, and health systems that support their people. Their most famous descendant is Jim Thorpe, often called the greatest athlete of the 20th century, an Olympic gold medalist, baseball player and football star, Thorpe's achievements remain unmatched. The Choctaw show that survival can transform into leadership even after devastating loss. If you believe these voices must never be silenced, subscribe to this channel. Together, we can honor the past, give truth to the present, and ensure these nations are never forgotten.